Skill Trades Sponsor Talk starts now. Welcome all to Skill Trades Sponsor Talk, where STTO.ca emphasizes striving towards a new tomorrow. Skill Trade Tutors Online will always tell you to get a better start to the trades. And now, Sponsor Talk will be delving into you and your workplace. Let's get started. In this episode, we'll discuss how working safely must start with protocols for work involving ground disturbances. In other words, holes in the grounds or way dirt has been moved around you, you could become part of it if all of a sudden there's been a berm put around you. So you're in a ground disturbance now because the berm has been moved around you. Protocols and the duty to create and monitor them have been brought to a responsible work site by the following. Always a lot involved when it comes to making things safe at work sites. So, protocols for working within a ground disturbance includes the following personnel. Always the site director. And below him, the director of roads and grounds, and of course the direct supervisor, and you, the worker. Site director. This individual is responsible for planning and supervising all ground disturbances to prevent the possibility of any accumulation of flammable or toxic gases within the ground disturbance. That's got to be one of the most dangerous things. Anything that sits down there, H2S is heavy, it could sit down there. So could propane, it's very heavy, it could sit down in holes. Very, very dangerous. They also deal with rainwater diversion throughout the site. In other words, when it rains a lot, you want to make sure it doesn't flood everywhere. It has a place to go. The Director of Roads and Grounds. These individuals administer the machinery and the manpower to deal with all site ground disturbance. And that's what's important because they have the right machines to do the right work without taking too long or having issues. They also document any abnormal situations that occur. They are also responsible for securing and allocating the PPE required to enter the ground disturbance. Yes, in most cases, you're going to be under air because you never know what is going to be shaken out of the ground as a toxic gas. So there could be some breathing air stations up above or something like that that has to be set up already by the director of grounds and roads or roads and grounds. The direct supervisor, they ensure that all workers understand all the protocols for working within a ground disturbance. They assign workers the courses needed to work with such risk. If any PPE is required for such work, the direct supervisor will ensure that it is provided before the work commences. So you should understand all the risks working within a ground disturbance. You should also understand the protocols that you need. Everybody must have the worker's gas detection for all the gases that are dangerous on site. That way there, when it goes beep, 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 you know to get out. That's very important. A check-in schedule will also be started so that workers can check in with the supervisor at specific times. Of course, they would check in if their detectors go off. They would check in if there's rain coming or weather's changing. Like anything that occurs that can affect the work that they're doing has to be reported to the supervisor. Workers. Employees are required to adhere to the checking in with their supervisor as scheduled and report any injuries occurring from the ground disturbance. Yes, if it's every half hour, make sure you do it. That's your responsibility as the worker to check in. That way there, he feels at ease, you feel at ease. Can't go wrong. Where was I here? Workers must be aware of any changes in weather to have the time to be able to leave the ground disturbance. That's very important. Very, very important. You've got stuff that you have to save. You have to make sure everything's right, and then you have to get out of there. So have somebody watch. Have somebody be the weather watch. That always helps. They must also ensure that their gas testing equipment has been bump tested before use. Yes, that is the responsibility of the worker, no one else. That's a piece of PPE that's protecting them. They should make sure that it's ready for use. We're going to go with an episode recap on this ground disturbance. Employees must follow communication protocols for work involving ground disturbances. Yes, that's very important. Weather must be monitored constantly to allow time to leave the ground disturbance safely. Of course, you don't want to be caught in a rush and then get hurt because it's going to be raining fast. Workplace gas testing equipment must be bump tested before use. That is the responsibility of the worker. Always make sure, because that piece of equipment can save your life, allow you to go home at night every day. It needs to be tested. Well, that's it for this. We'll see you on the next one. Become the worker in this scenario. Get a better start to the trades from an Alberta apprenticeship sponsor. Of course, it's Skilled Trade Tutors Online. And also, keep your career going as an apprentice by being part of STTO.ca apprenticeship sponsor. We will make sure that your portfolio will be up to date and you'll always know where you stand in the trades. Of course, Apprentice Crew from STTO has as a motto, keep your tools and thoughts clean, your mind alive and awake, be fit for duty during your workday, and always wear PPE the right way. And of course, being part of the crew, you teach and learn. Apprenticeships are one day at a time and not forever. Any questions can be brought to me, Guy LaRochelle, the apprenticeship sponsor. See you on the next one. STTO Sponsor Talk